Hey everyone, it's Lisa Danforth, and I am excited to have the fabulous Finka Jerkovic here today. She is the author of Sell from Love. I can't wait for her to share all of her brilliant difference with you. We're going to be talking about how to sell from love and why it's so important and the things that we can do for ourselves in order to come from that space. But before we jump in, I want to share just a little bit about Finka so you know her brilliant difference and why we're having this conversation today. So Finka brings over 2 decades of experience in corporate Canada in the financial services industry with an expertise in sales, go figure, right? Leadership, communication, and coaching. Her book, Sell from Love, Love Yourself, Love Your Client, Love Your Offer, released November 20th, hit Amazon's #1 bestseller list and was listed as a hot new release. Finka helps her clients discover their brilliant difference so that they can get 100% clear on their unique talents, skills, and expertise so that they can use their personal skills, strengths to grow their business. And I attest to that because I have been reading her phenomenal book and it is great. Totally recommend it. So Finka, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. One, having this conversation with you, and then secondly, one of my favorite topics is talking about self from love. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. Can you share a little bit more about you? You know how you sort of discovered this a self from love, but also your brilliant difference.
So I've been in, I say, sales or a form of sales, whether it was strategy, communications, leadership, or as a salesperson for my entire career. And what I've actually learned is that most people don't believe they're selling, and most people are actually selling. And right. And so what happened was, I had this moment of, there's these traditional ways of selling, or there's these 5-step formulas, or you need to do it this way, or you need to do it that way. And what I've learned is that we each have our own unique way in which we connect with clients, in which we solve problems, in which we are here to, help people get what they want. And so my work has been, and when I look at the Sell from Love message and methodology is, number one, primarily figure out who you are, figure out what your brilliant difference is, figure out what is this unique gift that you bring to the world that only you do. And let's figure out how that helps your clients get what they want. And that's the second piece is, when you think about, we're not here only to bring our gifts for ourselves, that there are people waiting for us to serve them. And we have to look at, how do we love them that much that we are willing to risk ourselves, to put ourselves out there, up for, potentially criticism or judgment, because that's what happens when you show up, when you pick up the phone to make a call, when you put a post on social media, or when you reach out to someone saying, hey, I've got something that I think could help you, but let's talk a little bit to find out if it will. And there is risk associated with that. But when we love ourselves so much and we know we have a gift to offer, when we love our clients, meaning that you have something that's going to help that person or that company or that organization, and you love this thing that you're selling, that it's going to bring that solution, all of a sudden selling becomes so much easier. And it actually doesn't even feel like selling. So often what happens with clients that I work with is that they don't think they're selling. They're just out there helping people. They're out there serving people. And then we get stuck in this mode of thinking that when we sell, we have to do something different other than that. And so my wish and my goal is to remind people that, who you are is a gift in itself. And let's figure out how you can recognize that, how you can position that as valuable to your clients and to your organization, and that it's important for them to allow you to shine. And at the same time, then go out there and do the amazing work that you're here to do. So yeah, that can you tell I'm a bit passionate about the topic?
No, I love it because I like what you said, which is it is really uncomfortable to put ourselves out there. There's a fear that comes up that stops us from creating the impact that I believe, and it sounds like you do, that we are here to make. What can someone do to start working and getting over that fear and claiming their brilliant difference?
So number one is just acknowledging that the fear is there, that we, our old brain is wired in a way to keep us safe. And so if we step outside of our comfort zone, if we step outside, even just to put that post on LinkedIn or on one form of social media, or even to make that call and reach out to that client, it is our old brain responsibility to keep us safe. And what it's keeping us safe from is, if I go out there and tell people that this is what I do and this is who I am and I can help them, our old brain is saying, well, that's risky. You might be criticized. They might not like that. They're going to judge you. And so then the old brain is also interested in making sure we belong and that we're liked. And so you've got these two, very strong, pulls that are holding us back. And so I think, importantly, we need to just name it. The fear is there. And then we get our new brain and we say, hey, I've got this. I know I can do this. I've done this before. I've got something really great that can help someone. And so there's that piece. What I also have uncovered is that, when it comes to putting ourselves out there, it's so fascinating because often I'll ask that, in my research and when I work with my clients, I'll ask them, do you love yourself? And we go through a list of questions around, where is their opportunity to either love themselves more, or where's the missing gap? Do they love their client? Because that could be the opportunity that's holding them back from putting themselves out there. Or is it their offer? And the two places that people miss out the most on is, one, we don't love ourselves enough to put ourselves out there. And number two is we don't love the thing we're selling enough. But what we do love and who we do love is our client. And so we know we've got something that we want to go out and help those people. But what holds us back is we're not recognizing our own value and worth and realizing that this unique proposition that you bring is valuable. And then the second piece is that it is when you don't love yourself, it's very difficult to go out there and hit publish and promote and position yourself as a leader in your field.
Yeah, I so agree. It is, yeah, right. So you're about to hit post and then, wait a minute, I've got to reread it, tweak it, do all of that.
Yeah.
I love your message, but I think a lot of people can get tripped up with the word love. Mm-hmm. How do you recommend, what would you suggest for someone to start working through this? Because we do have to love ourselves and trust what we're putting out there. What's one or two tips or skills that you would recommend for people to start building that muscle?
Yeah. So, fear is a very powerful emotion. And when I was looking at positioning this book and figuring out, what is the thing that's going to conquer fear? The only most powerful emotion is love. And so if you are getting tripped up on that, I want to give you, what's going to cure the fear of rejection, fear of failure, or the fear of not belonging is the fact that we are going to put this emotion of love in front of it. And so that it's a very strong and powerful posture to be standing in. And so when it comes to figuring out, what can you do to move forward? The first thing I would say is figuring out what your brilliant difference is. What is it that makes you so brilliant and so unique? And finding the words to describe that. Often, when I work with clients, it's like, what makes you different, or how do you add value? And, things like, I give great client experiences. I am very responsive, those are not, or, I'm here to help and serve my clients, but that's not going to allow you to stand out or be different enough. And it's not going to be enough for you to actually figure out what value you bring. So can I share a quick story?
Oh, please. I love stories.
Okay. So I know, and it's a personal experience in this area of, figuring out how to love yourself. I worked most of my career in financial services, and I am a creative, out of the box thinker. I am always looking for new ways to solve old problems. And so what I found often, whether I was in a management meeting or, with my colleagues, with my leaders, I'd always, have a different way of marketing or selling or figuring out how do we grow our business. And what happened often was that I would position this idea, or I would say, hey, why don't we try this? Or I've been doing this and this has been working. The trigger response that was the norm was, well, we don't do it here that way. It's never been done this way here before, or that won't work because of whatever reason it won't work.
But what we want you to come in and change what's happening, right?
Exactly. But we want you to solve this problem. Like, how do we get more clients? How do we grow our business? Right. And it was fascinating. And so I don't know if this happens to any of you guys, but what happened for me was that over time, I started hearing a lot of no's. And those no's started making me think that, maybe my ideas weren't good. Maybe something was wrong with the ideas. And eventually I started thinking that my ideas, because they were so different from everybody else in that room, that maybe something was wrong with me. And as a result, I started actually turning the volume down on who I was and how I showed up. And so I stopped speaking up as much. I stopped sharing my ideas. And I had one of those, big wake up calls where, something happens and you kind of like life shakes you up and says, I ended up in the ER. I won't go through all the details, but I ended up in the ER thinking I'm having a heart attack. It wasn't. It was a panic attack. But in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, is living a life of who I thought I needed to be for everybody else wasn't going to cost me my life. And I thought, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. And so then I went back and I said, I'm going to do things differently. And it was that's what I needed to, like, that was the kick in the pants I needed to wake up and say, you know what, just be yourself, because you got one shot at this life and let's see if that works.
It's not a dress
and it
rehearsal.
did. It isn't. And it worked. It's like, oh. And so what I realized was that, especially in the bank, because I was this, I thought differently. They actually needed these new ideas. They needed this difference that I brought to the table. And there was two key learnings. One, they need it. And so if you're feeling like there's something different about you, it doesn't fit. I have another client who just emailed me moments ago earlier today. She's a really human, emotionally active person in the workplace. And she loves to speak. She's very passionate about her work, but everybody she works with in the workplace is analytical. And so she's like, people don't get me. They don't get me, And so, but they need her. They need her to remember the human connection and the emotional connection and the reason why they're there to do the work. And so, for me and my experiences, I realized that I needed to bring that difference. And at the same time, this is the second piece to this, because I think when we talk about authenticity and being ourselves, it's like, this is who I am. Accept me, take me, or not. And then I'm out of here. But if you want to work with particular clients, or you want to work in a specific environment, or you want to solve certain problems, the thing we need to do is look at how are we communicating our ideas. And so I had to go back and learn how to communicate better, meaning I had creative ideas, but they weren't hearing them for a reason. Mm-hmm. And so how do I position these ideas in a way that they're going to understand them, they're going to hear them, they're going to ask more questions, and maybe be more interested in them. Yeah.
Can you share a bit about how you did that? Because I think that's where we often get tripped up, is we look externally, they're not understanding, but how do we shift what we're saying so it can be received? How did you do that?
Number one, you got to learn who you are. So if you don't know who you are and how you communicate, it's going to be very difficult for you to understand that person's different from me. That person's different from me. So I'm going to say we need to do the self-awareness work. We've got to dig in deeper to figure out what is our gift, what is our brilliant difference. And when you figure out what your brilliant difference is, it's very easy. Then I'm working with a client. It's like, oh, they're very different from me. Their brilliant difference is very unique. And it's not like mine. And then from there, we can work and start talking about, how do you need to communicate your message in a way that they're going to hear and understand you. So I always look at it as our mission is to be ourselves and to bring our work, our purpose through our work. And how we message that mission is the other piece of it, because that's when we're connecting with our clients, and we've got to look at our messaging and make sure that that's in alignment to how they're going to hear it and understand it.
Beautiful, all brilliant stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, you were sharing your story about being in the financial and the banking industry. It has got to be, you've got to get a lot of pushback from people in order to bring in, hey, let's sell from love, to really connect to that. Mm-hmm. And in chapter 2, I just want to put this up. So here's Finka's book, Sell from Love, which is all, dog-eared and whatnot, because I'm absolutely loving it. But in chapter 2, you talk about find the words that you love. Can you share with us how the impact of what happens of how we show up, our tone and whatnot, when we're not clear on the words that we need to use to express.
Mm-hmm. So if when you get the book, chapter 2 actually takes you through the whole process on finding your words, and they're words that are going to help you fall in love with the qualities of what you bring to the table. And I break it down into 3 parts. Part 1 is your brilliant difference story. The second is your statement, and the third is your signature. And they are actually 3. They go from being very expansive. Your story tells a whole lot about you. What is your unique difference? What do you bring to the table? Who do you use it? Who do you help it with? What is that offer you use to help them? And what's the impact and value that it delivers? The statement's a little bit more concise. So it allows for you to, if you're in those moments where, you need to have 1 or 2 lines to talk about where your value and who do you help and how do you add value, you have that statement. What I love about the signature is it boils everything down to, 2 or 3 words. Mm-hmm. And that work, what I have found for myself is when I know what my signature is, and I look at your brilliant difference signature as your purpose, it helps anchor you into knowing what your purpose is when you're working with a client, when you are walking into a boardroom meeting, or submitting a proposal to a client. And for me, it's been, I've got a client that I'm working with this afternoon to figure out what his brilliant difference is. But what it gives us a North Star. We know exactly where we are going. I know my work is I help people go from transactions to transformations. Those are my 3 words. If I were to, and when I package it as my Your Brilliant Difference signature, it's called transformational love. Mm-hmm. I know that the most powerful transformation we can have is when we can have this experience of, even in our business world, love is a business strategy. When clients love us, but when clients love us, you activate the most powerful strategy of all, word of mouth. Mm-hmm. When clients experience working with you, 50 to 80% of what they're going to say is based on how you serve them. And that spurs up the word of mouth strategy. That's how businesses grow. That's how you grow. And so, I look at, when your brilliant difference and you have the words, you walk out with more confidence because you know what value you bring. You have direction and you have a North Star as to where you're going. On top of that, it also tells people the value and impact you deliver because they got a chance to work with you. Mm-hmm. Right.
Agree with everything you're saying. And I will just sort of share a little story of my own. Is I've struggled with saying exactly what I do and getting it out into the world, because it is a very holistic and strategic approach to business. And people want to, just tell me the strategy and we move forward. But what I was finding is that I wasn't bringing my full self. And when I finally got grounded in, look, we have to bring in both. Our personal life and our professional life are not mutually exclusive. They're interdependent. Only then my business really started to take off, because it decreased the fear of me presenting all of my work, right? Presenting who I am and the impact that I can make. And I just think knowing that and being able to step up and seeing the transition, seeing the transformation in your client invites us forward even more. So
I think the other thing that you're pointing to is what we need to stop doing is compartmentalizing ourselves, that this part is for work. This part is for my clients. This part is for my, my spouse and partner, and this part's for my kids. And it actually, all of us shows up everywhere we go. And so our learning experience, I know for me, is I show up everywhere. And so how do I bring all the parts of me and the best of me to every relationship and every interaction that I am in? And so I look at, my 2 words of transformational love, whether I'm hanging out with my daughter, with our horses in the paddock, or with my husband, or with my clients, or yesterday doing a workshop, it doesn't matter. I'm bringing the same gifts because it's me and it's who I am and what I'm delivering. And I think that's the important part. We all have to, figure out what is our brilliant difference. And then no matter where we are, we bring it. And then there's so much energy we save.
Oh my gosh. So much more joy and fulfillment that we experience. Leora just said, giving the gift. It is so true.
Mhm.
It is so incredibly true. Thank you, Leora. I really appreciate that. And we show up and we're able to make that impact. It's so important.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about fudge?
Fudge. So, a little bit of fudge is okay. Too much fudge, we all know how that makes us feel. Exactly. And so fudge stands for what I talk about in the book, the 5 things that stand in the way from us going out there, positioning ourselves as leaders in our work, as experts in our field, and having the ability to help our clients. So fudge stands for fear. So that's the F. Uncertainty, doubt, guilt, and expectations. And so these are all potential roadblocks that we face that our old brain is saying, I don't know what's going to happen, or I'm afraid what's going to happen, or I don't know if I have the skills or ability to do this, or I feel so bad that I might leave someone behind, or whatever, or I need to perform at a certain expectation. That one gets me all the time. That all of a sudden, how we show up starts getting compromised because of that.
I love your quote, improving the dialogue between your ears,
Mm-hmm.
right? So important. We can really trip ourselves up with that.
Yeah, it is. I want to just give you a quick example of how it plays out. And I'm going to use my daughter as an example. And this is, this happens to all of us. So some of us will be like, I think we're all becoming more aware of the voice in our head. And we've got, there's numerous voices. There's a very supportive, empowering, championing voice that's in our head that says, you can do this, you got this, you go. Then there's the other voice. You don't have this, you don't have that. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And so there's that other voice, and that or other voice, again, old brain work, wants to keep us safe, but it does, by keeping us safe, it actually minimizes and diminishes and pulls us back from the work that we're here to do. And so I took my daughter swimming, and we were at the pool, and she was, I say, about 6 years old at this time. And we're at the pool, and she's standing on the ledge, ready to jump in. And as she's standing there, I'm in the water, and I'm saying, Yelena, just jump, Yelena. She's like, no, mommy, I'm scared. I can't jump, mommy, I can't jump. And I'm like, sweetheart, just jump. I'm right here to catch you. Like, there's a security blanket. It's safe. Like, just jump. No, mommy, I can't. So I just want you to think about, like, how often no, I can't do this. I can't do this.
I'm bad at it.
I'm bad at it. Like, we do this to ourselves. And then in a moment, she's standing there. I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. She's standing there, and she says, all right, Yelena, you got this. You could do this, Yelena. You could do this. You could do this. And then she jumped, landed in my arms, came up above the water, and said, I want to do that again. Right. And so I want to 2 things about that, because I think, our kids teach us more than we give them credit for. And I think they are our best teachers. Hands down, my daughter has been my best teacher. And at the same time, I will say that 2 things happened in there. One, she switched from the disempowering inner critic that is in all of us, made a choice to say, let me talk to myself in a more empowering, supportive way that actually nudged her to action. Okay. Because if she didn't do that, she wouldn't have jumped yet. Or I would have forced her, and that still wouldn't have felt good. And the second piece to that was the third person. So when we do our self-talk, a very important component of self-talk is not just, you could do this. It's, Lisa, you got this, or Finka, you got this. We need to talk to ourselves like a third person. And all of a sudden that gives us the empowerment and the courage to take that step, hit post and do whatever we have to do to keep moving forward.
I love that. And I just want to say, for anyone who is listening or even watching the replay, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat so we can answer them. Now is your time to get your questions answered. So Lee, if you've got another question or a comment, please pop it in there. Is it what you're talking about? Is that the same thing that you have in your book of the 4 critical skills that we need for, what is it? 4 critical skills that we need to connect authentically with our clients. Is that the one where it's like, I am willing?
So that is, yeah. So those,
I love that.
yeah. So that's called power priming.
Power.
So power priming. So power priming is it's unique. It's different than doing affirmations. Number one, they're very personalized to you and what outcome you're looking to create for yourself. And what I've noticed is with affirmations, sometimes we say, I am confident or I am feeling great, and we might not feel confident and we might not feel great. And so, what I love about the power priming process is the fact that we actually build ourselves up to eventually being and feeling confident. So, the first is we say, I am willing to be confident. And so all of a sudden, when we put an energy of I am willing, even though I'm not confident right now, I am willing to be confident for that presentation or that proposal I got to put forward for that client. It's like all of a sudden we open ourselves up. That constricted type energy that we can't do this is exactly, it's let go. So number one, I'm willing. The next is I choose to. I choose to be confident. We are not now, defaulting to whatever programming we have. We are now consciously making a choice to say, hey, confident, I can choose to be that and embody that and move forward and take action with confidence. Then the next one is I believe I am. I believe I am confident. And so now all of a sudden, Napoleon Hill has this great quote that I always remind myself, if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. Mm-hmm. And so this one really taps on the power of belief, because when we can start believing I can be confident, or you're believing you can be confident, all of a sudden you actually get closer to that. And when you say, I am confident to do this presentation, I am confident to put out that proposal. And so it's this layered approach of power, of priming our brain and our emotional heart to embrace this truth that we are confident, but somewhere in our head, we told ourselves we weren't. And we, fudge played, fear, uncertainty, doubt, guilt. One of those had come into the equation.
Serving a
that
fudge.
kind of, exactly, stirred it up. And now all of a sudden we can use the power priming activity, affirmation process to help get us closer to the feeling, the outcome, the goal that we really wanted to achieve in the first place.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You're making me think of something I tell my clients all the time, which is a goal is a place to come from, not get to. So when we sit in the energy of the person who has achieved this, right, we show up as that person more readily. We will step into that uncomfortable space and work through our fear. So really sitting in who is it that we need to be and being that person in the moment. And
I love that.
As you were talking, it's like we make things so difficult. We throw things in our way so that we have to struggle. But again, sitting in that, a goal is a place to come from. Who is the person that I need to be in this moment? Even to ask these questions of myself, to bring myself forth.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote it down. A goal is a place to come from. And it's that same notion of start with the end in mind, right? And so let's start where we want to end. And then from there, exactly work backwards. Who do you need to be in this moment in order to achieve or have or create that? Mm-hmm. One of the things sometimes what I find is it's difficult for me, especially when we're stretching ourselves to say, I want to, grow my business to X figures, or I want to work with X amount of clients, or I want to move into a new market or niche in your business. And you think of the year we've had and all of the uncertainty. So fudge has been really fueled this year, a ton of it, right? Yeah, lots of fudge going on around here. And so what I know helps me and helps, when I think about how do you stand in a place of an end goal when you feel so far from it because you feel fear or uncertain about if you can achieve it. So that power priming process is really helpful on getting us wound up for that outcome. So that's one. But the second thing we can do is I step into an experience that I had that was very similar. It might not have had the same outcome. So now I might be stretching to say, I want to grow my business to have, impact X amount of people, or I want to present on X amount of stages or Zoom rooms, whatever we want to do. But what is the feeling I had when I had that success a year ago or 2 years ago with a very similar type of circumstance? And so sometimes it's very difficult if we say, I want to make $1 million. it's very difficult to fathom making $1 million if we've never made $1 million, but you may know how it feels to make $250,000. And so if you've made $250,000, sit in that feeling of what it felt like, the financial freedom, the ability to provide and support for your family, the confidence that, you have to make bigger decisions in your business to move things forward. You step into that feeling and just, add a couple zeros and a one on the front. And all of a sudden you're putting yourself, and that's it. And that's all we're looking to do is expand and expand the experience of who we are here to be.
And I'd love to add one thing additional to what you were just saying is it's sitting in the impact of when I show up fully and own my brilliance with my clients allows me to step forth and it draws me out of my comfort zone because it is so important. So important to help my client. That's what draws me out significantly. And when you were talking, it made me think of Amy Cuddy's book, Presence, right? When you're standing and just, thinking and putting your hands on your shoulder, on your hips changes the chemicals in your brain. I would imagine those questions really do the same thing. Leora says, PPP and feeling the success is so motivating. This is, thank you, Leora. It is what I teach, right? Just really sitting in that. So thank you. I appreciate that. I would love, we're coming up, actually, we're just a few minutes past. So I would love, there's one thing in your book, so many things that truly resonated with me, but it was when you were talking about how self-care helps you with your time management. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So often we think that taking care of ourselves can look like in many forms, whether it's a spiritual practice, a meditation practice, a physical activity practice, walking, exercising, moving your body. And we look at and say, I don't have time to exercise today. I don't have time to take my dog for a walk, or I don't have time to meditate. What I have learned over the 15 years, even since I started meditating 15 years ago, is that when I say I don't have time for those activities, it's actually a sign that I need to be doing those activities.
Twice as much.
Twice as much. But the power of doing those things actually makes us more effective and efficient after we do them. And so when you get to go out and, go outside and, just breathe in some fresh air, meditate, take a yoga class, run, walk, whatever that physical or mental or even journaling, you're actually expending that emotional, let's say, baggage that we carry with us often. So that fudge that we're carrying, fear, uncertainty, it needs a place to go. And if we don't work out, if we don't move our body, if we don't, sit quietly and, just tone down the noise that's going on in our head, all of a sudden that actually fills up all the empty spaces in our calendar. And so we can't get a lot more. We can't get things done. I remember, so really quickly, just a great metaphor for this. A long time ago, computers used to, and this might age me, computers needed to do this process called defragmentation. So once a week, you remember? It probably does it still.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. So it probably still does it to this day, but we don't have to click a key. You don't have to manually defragment it. And so the whole process of defragmenting was, the computer would do its thing to organize the files because there were so many spaces in between to make it more compact and concise so the computer would run better. That's where I see self-care. Self-care is our defragmentation process. We need to go out and exactly, right? So you got to go out, get all this stuff out so the system runs better. So that way you can be more effective, get more done. And you actually get time back when you make time to meditate, walk, exercise, and move your body in some capacity.
And it doesn't need to take, if a 10-minute meditation is great, but if you don't have that time, if you're transitioning from one call to the next or one client to the next, I recommend a couple of different things. One, take 3 sets of 4-count breaths, 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out, 4 count hold. That is enough of a disruptor within our neural pathways that we can transition into something else, a different way of being, and disrupt those well-worn neural pathways that have us saying we can't take care of ourselves. And self-care is not just about eating and exercise. It's about how we treat ourselves, and how we treat ourselves impacts how we show up for ourselves, for our clients, for the ones that we love. So, Finka,
Absolutely.
is there a question that I didn't ask you that you would have asked yourself?
Oh, oh, I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to think, what would I want to know? I think, when I think about putting yourself out there, if I were to, ask myself, like, what's the one thing you need? The one thing is you need to trust yourself. And you may not always trust that the thing that you're putting out there is going to work, or you're going to get that client, or you're going to get a win, or, a good, reaction or response from other people based on what you put out there. And whether you fail or it doesn't go as planned, or even if you are successful, know that you can handle it. And so often what happens is we hold ourselves back. Not that always we lack trust in ourselves, but we lack faith that even if things don't go as planned, we can't handle it. And so I find for myself, even every moment that I feel, a moment of fear or fudge start percolating, as long as I ask myself, I am scared to do this. Do I trust myself? Yeah, I do. But do I have faith in myself that if things go badly, that I'll still be okay? I can handle it. And like the world won't crumble. And if I answer yes, then it's like, all right, just go for it.
Mm.
And so I think that notion of just trusting ourselves more every day. And what happens with courage and what happens with confidence is the more we allow ourselves to practice that, do something, it fuels the courage to keep doing it, which naturally then gives us confidence to show up even more authentically, even more purposely, and even more, vulnerably in a way that is congruent to who we are.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to end. So thank you so much. Just want to give a shout out to Rhonda. She said such an important message and reminder. It is, Rhonda. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Finka, where can people reach out, contact you if they want to know more about you, more about your book and the work that you do?
Yeah, perfect. So you can go to www.sellfromlove.com. And there you'll learn a lot about the book. You'll learn, there's a podcast you can learn and listen more about Sell From Love, as well as the Sell From Love community, if that's an interest, to continue the conversation around how to show up more authentically, empathetically, and with purpose in your business and in your work. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Finka Jerkovic, and on Instagram as well. So Finka_Jerkovic. So yeah, look forward to connecting with you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I want to say next week, I am interviewing David Rose from Rose Computer Technologies. He's going to be talking about cybersecurity in 2021 and how do we protect our business. So I'm really looking forward to that. Finka, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. And to everyone, to your success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.